Yay, we're live. Happy Tuesday, besties and bosses. How are you all doing? How's your week been going? I keep thinking it's a different day of the week, but it is Tuesday for the whole day. And I don't know why I always get messages every time I pop on live, but really excited to hang with you today. We are going to dive into the number one reason people aren't buying. That has nothing to do with your prices or your chakras, because this is something I see come up for almost every single one of my clients. So I think this is a really universal topic that we've talked about in some ways, but I don't think we've talked about it the way we're going to today. And say, hey, if you're joining live, thanks for joining in with me. And I think what we're going to talk about today is just such an important conversation, because we're going to speak about so many things that are fundamental to business principles, business strategy. So really, wherever you're at in business, this is something that's going to apply for you. And I think this is something that's pretty much everyone comes up against at some point in their business, and hopefully it'll be really helpful for you. I guess before we go, because I want to dive right into the meat and potatoes of this, but let me preface this a little bit, like the way I see this showing up. What I find, and raise your hand if you've been here, whether you're watching now or on the replay, what I find when I'm working with clients, a lot of times they'll come to me and they're frustrated and they feel like they're struggling because they're showing up everywhere, they're doing all the things, they're doing everything right in business, they're posting their offers, they're marketing, they're sharing their content daily, they're working their mindset, everything we know we're supposed to do as business owners. It feels like they're working that, and then it's like, wait, but why? Where are the clients? Why aren't the clients showing up? Why am I not making any money? No shame in that game. If you've ever been there, raise your hand. I think this can be a really frustrating place in business. And I think a lot of times the solution we think is either there's something wrong with my offer, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with my mindset, I need to do more, there's something wrong with my strategy, I need to throw more at the wall, see what sticks. And while I am, if you've been hanging out with me for any amount of time, you know I'm all about the mindset, and I'm all about taking a look at that, and sometimes that really is the case. But what I find a lot of the times is the reason people aren't converting their offers and the reason people aren't buying, sometimes it has nothing to do with mindset, sometimes it has nothing to do with your pricing or your offer or your strategy. Sometimes it's because the people you're selling to don't know what you're selling. They don't understand what it is you're selling to them. Now, before you jump off, because that sounds so overly simple and obvious, I want to break this down and show you 3 ways this shows up, because this is more common than you think. I promise you, if this is coming up for you and you make some of these changes today, you'll see a difference in your business conversions. So, and I know you hear this, it's like, if I'm selling, of course people are going to know what I'm selling, Kim. But what I find happens so often for all of us is what we are selling, the offer we have in our head, is not meeting people where they're at. And so they can't understand what it is we're actually selling to them. So a lot of times I'll talk to clients and so what is it that you're selling? What's your offer? And then when they try to describe it to me, we realize it's actually really confusing. And here's the thing, if what you're selling is confusing to you, you better believe it's going to be confusing to people on the other side buying. And confused people don't buy. I know you've heard that before, but it's really true. Confused people don't buy. Something else I think that's really important to remember is the reason that we buy as humans is really simple. It's a very universal thing. As humans, we are so predictable. We spend money for a few basic reasons. We want to avoid pain, we want to solve our problems, and we want to seek pleasure. It's really how our brain is wired. Our brain does a few things really well, and one of the things it's wired to do is avoid pain, seek pleasure. So in business, a lot of times what we're selling is something that helps people avoid pain, solve a problem, or get pleasure, get some sort of benefit or result. What I find happens is we forget that, again, when we buy, people buy for those reasons, and people are selfish. And not in a bad way. People are also very generous and beautiful and amazing. But when it comes to buying and our buying habits, we buy for very selfish reasons. We buy because we want to solve our own problems, our own pain points. We want to avoid those pain points, and we want to give ourselves those pleasures that we know we want. It's kind of like all we can see as buyers. I'm trying to think of a good example here, but if you go into a restaurant and you're really hungry, your pain point is hunger. All you want is food. So if you go and sit down at the table and all you want is food and that's what you want to buy, and someone starts trying to sell you the plate your food is going to go on, even though you might need plates at home, you're like, I can't hear you. The only thing I can hear is food. I literally can't hear you. Hey, Denise. Hey, Stephanie. Nice to have you here. Let me know if this is making sense, y'all. Let me know if you have questions as I'm going through this. So it's really, really important for everyone as business owners to start to think about where, and I'm going to break this down to 3 areas, but really, what am I selling? And what am I selling? Am I speaking to this in a way my people understand? Because if people aren't buying, there's a good chance there's nothing wrong with your offer. There's nothing wrong with your price. There's nothing wrong with your marketing. There's nothing wrong with your strategy. There's a very good chance it's just that your people can't completely understand what it is you're selling and how it helps them solve their problem or helps them get what they want. What I find happens a lot of times as business owners is we are selling to the problems we think our people have, or we're selling to the benefits we want for our people, or we're selling to the results we're excited for our people, instead of meeting them where they're at in their journey. And when we have this disconnect, it is, I swear, it is the number one reason people don't buy. It's because they can't understand you. They can't understand what you're selling because you're basically speaking 2 different languages. Let me know if this is making sense, and I'm going to break this down into 3 areas so you have really tangible places you can take a look at in your business and in your messaging to play around with this. And if you have questions, always throw those at me. So let's just go to the first one here, because I think this is probably one of the most easy ones to dig into. So again, we're breaking this down. People are really simple. They buy to avoid pain, solve their problems, and to seek pleasure. One of the things we want to get clear on when we're meeting our people where they're at is to get clear on what is the problem they know they have. What is the pain point they know they have? I'm sure you've heard this in business before. If you've been in business for any amount of time, I'm sure you have heard, in business, we're solving pain points, we're solving problems. Like, what's the pain point of your people? Speak to that pain point. And I think sometimes as heart-centered business entrepreneurs, as a side note, I know that used to drive me crazy because I don't want to talk about people's pain points. I just want to talk about all the wonderful things for my people because that just feels so yucky and icky. Maybe that's just me. Let me know if that's ever been you. But I think we can reframe this and really see as business owners who are being smart and as business owners who are being caring and heart-centered, we're actually doing a disservice to our people if we're not thinking about their pain points and we're not speaking to those pain points. Because if you have a product or service that can help people, they're literally not going to hear you and they're not going to feel heard and understood if you're not speaking and meeting them where they're at based on the problems they're currently facing. So one of the most common things I see in business that creates that disconnect is, as business owners, it's really easy to speak to the pain points you're aware of because you're further down the road, or the problems you see because you're further down the road for your people. Or let's say you have a product, the bigger picture problems your product solves, or those bigger picture pain points your product solves, and you miss the really important core problems or pain points that your people are currently struggling with. It's almost like we have this tendency to we're so excited and we're further along in the journey to speak to where we're at, where we know people can be, instead of where our people are at. And so this is a really easy place to miss connecting those dots for people, because if you're speaking where you're at and not where your people are at, they're literally not going to understand how your product or service is for them. They're not going to understand what it's about, because it's like you're speaking two different complete languages. Let me know if this is making sense, because y'all are very quiet and I want to make sure that this is. I also want to turn my air on down one. It is summer in New York City, y'all. Talking about if someone could solve a problem for me, my current problem is the humidity in New York City and how flushed, I feel like I'm always saying that, how shiny I get on camera. So if there is this is a great example. So this is a current problem of mine. I'm super shiny in the summer. I want a product that's going to address that. That is my actual core pain point or problem. And a lot of products don't want to address that. They want to address what they think I want, which is I don't know, all the fancy ingredients in their powder, or all the fancy ingredients in their product, versus I will buy, those it's kind of gross, but those oil blotting sheets? I will buy those because it literally meets me where I'm at and speaks to the problem I currently have, what I'm currently thinking about, which is I feel oily. That is an oil blotting sheet. It's going to make me feel oil free, or less shiny. It meets me where I'm at. It addresses the problem I currently have. Hey Nicole, nice to have you here. If that same product had talked about how doing that would, you know, like takes me 5 steps down the road and starts talking about how, like, what it's made of, or like how it's going to help my skin feel later, all of that's beautiful, but I probably would not buy it or completely miss it, because it would miss meeting me where I'm at in my brain for what I'm looking to spend my money on. And so that's the same thing that we're talking about here in your business. If you feel like people aren't buying, one of the first places to look at in your content, in your copy, in your conversations is, am I being really clear and addressing the problem my people currently have, where they're currently at, and speaking and meeting that head on? And am I speaking to the problem they know they have? Exactly. A lot of times people will speak to problems they don't know they have. If we're talking about, this is like the grossest example ever, but like oily skin, maybe that's caused by some, I don't know, some skin thing that I know nothing about. It'd be really easy for a product to speak to that skin problem thing I don't know anything about, and it would completely fly over my head. And so this sounds so overly simple, and yet it's so easy to miss, because when we're in our work, when we're in our businesses, we're so entrenched. We know so much. We're the experts at what we do. We have a big picture view of not only our work, but where the people we're serving are at. So we can see so much more than they can, because we have that, you know, that bird's eye view. And so it's really easy to start speaking to all these different things. And if you're speaking to all these different things and your people aren't aware that that's something they need, it goes right over their head. Crystal says, this is great, Kim. I really feel I'm struggling with this exact thing, connecting with potential clients where they are, not just where I know they can be. Crystal, thank you so much for, oh, and Stephanie says I have those. I think she's talking about the oil blotting sheets. They're the best. It's kind of gross, but they're the best. Crystal, thank you so much for saying this so transparently, because I think, honestly, almost every single one of my clients struggles with this. And here's the thing, y'all, I think we think this is just something that happens at the beginning of business. Quite honestly, my clients who, because I work with people who are just starting business and have never booked a single client before, and clients who are at 6 figures and above and scaling, I think this happens over and over again, because as you grow, your offers change, your clientele changes, and we go through this all over again. And sometimes the further along you are in business, the further you are away from the problems your people face, because you know, you're growing in your journey as well. And so Crystal, just to say, I think this is so common for every business owner, and you know why coaching is so powerful, because we all have a hard time seeing that when we're so in our business, and just to normalize it a little bit. And again, just so important, not just to speak to where we know they can be, but to really meet our people where they're at. But I want to speak to this because it is also important to know, to speak to where they can be. So I think it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. But first and foremost, those problems your people have, meeting them where they're at and speaking to the problems they know they have. And if you're speaking to problems your people don't know they have, this is when we want to have content that educates them around it. So it's not that you can't speak to it, but if you're selling, we need to make sure, if you're selling to solve a problem, that first people understand why they need to solve this problem. This is a problem they have. So if they're not aware, create some content around it. But when we're going back, we had wireless disconnect. I think I'm back though. When we're speaking to, you know, those sales conversations, that copy, those call to actions, being really clear and simple and getting in our people's heads and thinking, I always like to say, what are your people bitching to their best friend about? Oh my gosh, y'all, so many things popping up on my screen. So we can just think about, like, what are your ideal clients? What are my people bitching to their best friend about? Because you know when you're talking to your best friend, like, that's when you keep it real. You're not like getting cerebral. You're not talking about like all the random things. You're like just keeping it like, this is what's freaking frustrating to me. However your clients are speaking to their best friend about their problem as it relates to the work you do, that's the problem they know they have, and that's the problem they want to solve. That's the pain point they will give you money for if you can help them solve that problem. And so we want to get clear on what that is, and then think about it literally, how are they speaking to their best friend about this? Because the more you can do that, the more you get inside their head, the more they're going to hear you, and they're going to understand that what you have can help them solve that problem. And that's when people want to give you money. And again, what most of us, I think what's just really common in the entrepreneurial space is we get into smart brain business land, and we get 5 steps ahead, and that's when we have that disconnect, and that's when suddenly you're selling something amazing, but people don't understand what you're selling and how it can help them. All right, so the next thing here kind of on, I think this speaks a little bit to what Crystal was talking about. So first we want to get clear on what are the problems my people have as they know about, what are the problems they know they have. Then what are the, what did I want to go second here. Okay, yeah. What are the results your people want? So where are they at with their problems, and then what is the solution they want? What is that result they want? This is kind of what Crystal's talking about. She knows where they can be. So if you know where they can be, if you can help them with this problem, you can help them with this challenge, this pain point, we know where we can take people with our work. We want to be really clear on speaking to where they can go, but making sure you're speaking to where they can go, that's something they also want, that's somewhere they also want to go. So another place I see a disconnect is we get really excited because we're like, I know where you can be and I know what this product or this service can do for you, and I'm so excited about it and I want to chat all about this, and we forget to check in with, are all the things I'm excited about the same things my people are excited about? It gets to be both, but if you're only speaking about the things you're excited about, I'm saying me, but that you're excited about your work, about your product, about your service, and you're only speaking about those things like are just so amazing that you feel so good about, you're missing the entire point for your people. What we want for people to understand what it is you sell and why they should buy it and why it's the product or service for them, we want to get clear on where do they want to be? Where do they want to go? Where are they excited, to be next? If that thing they're bitching to their best friend about, if that was removed, what would that do for them? What do they know they want on the other side of that? And how would they describe that? That's the thing we want to sell in our products and services, or in your products and services. Again, what happens, I think, for every business owner ever, I do it too. We're so into our work, we love our work, that we talk so much about, the things that we're excited for them to get to, and we just miss that really crucial part, which meets people where they're at in terms of where they want to go. So you can speak to both, but if you're missing that part that speaks to that result, that benefit they want, it just goes over their head. If I want skin that isn't shiny and you're just speaking to, I'm trying to think of like what another result that thing would be, how eco-friendly those are, because that's what you're so excited about in your product. I love eco-friendly stuff, but if you just tell me how eco-friendly this is, it misses the whole point. What I want to hear is that it's easy to use and that it's going to keep me shine free for 3 hours. I'm like making up the silliest example here. If you don't tell me that though, I'm not buying it. I don't even understand how your product can help me. If you're just talking about how eco-friendly it is and how it's going to make my skin feel soft, that's great, but I don't care because that's not what I'm looking for. You can say all of that. You can say it's eco-friendly and makes my skin soft if you also tell me I'll be shine free for 3 hours. So it's the same thing for you and your business. Really start to think about, what are those things my people want? Why do they want to get rid of that pain point? Why do they want to get rid of that problem? What's the thing they're like whining to their friend about wanting, or that they're up at night dreaming about? And how are they thinking about it? How can you get in their head and meet them where they're at and speak to that versus the thing you want for them? It's like, I'm sure we all have parents, we can think of parents or friends' parents who are like that, where they just want something for their kid so badly. And it's like, it doesn't matter if that's not what your kid wants, right? Like, that's when we have a disconnect. It's really hard to sell your kid on something if they don't want it as well. But as a parent, if you can figure out what your kid wants and sell them on what they want, and also figure in how to I've got a good example on this, how to give them what you also want, you have magic. So this is the dumbest example ever, except for it speaks to exactly this. If you want to sell your kid on eating vegetables, they don't want vegetables. What they want is mac and cheese. What you have to sell them on is the mac and cheese, and then you have to blend those vegetables up into the mac and cheese. Anyone ever done that as a parent? So that they'll eat the vegetables in their mac and cheese. It's the same thing with selling in your offers. You got to figure out what's the mac and cheese for your client, and then feel free to add those veggies in there, mix it into the mac and cheese recipe. But if you just try to sell them those veggies, they're not biting. If you give them the mac and cheese with the veggies, they're gonna bite. Let me know if this is making sense. I will give a business example from my perspective. I sell business and mindset coaching. I help my clients build, grow, and scale a profitable business that they're wildly in love with. A big part of the work I do is mindset, and then I do a lot of that strategy and action piece. What I love strategy, I love sales, I love messaging, I love helping people make lots of money. but I also love mindset. Like, I'm obsessed with mindset. However, I know if I just say, I can help you believe in yourself, and I can help you like have magical breakthroughs and just feel like you're on cloud nine, and everything will just feel wonderful and easy. That's great, but I'm gonna miss most of my clients, because that's what I'm excited about. But what most of my clients want to know is, cool, Kim, that's great, but can you help me book my next paying client? Can you help me make a little bit more money? Can you help me figure out how to build my business? Can you help me figure out how to stop feeling so freaking overwhelmed and stop doing all the things so that I can cash in and make those 10K months everyone's talking about? Right? I'm guessing if you're here, like, that's probably what you're thinking. And what I have to remember is I can include all those magical, wonderful, feel-good things that I'm excited about, but if I don't, those are my veggies. If I don't include the mac and cheese part of the 10K months or that next paying client, if I don't include that, it's just gonna go over everyone's head, because I'm not meeting my people where they're at with the thing they currently want the most. Let me know if this is making sense. So for you and your business, figure out what is that vegetable version, and how can you include the vegetables in your messaging, in your copy, in your content, in your sales conversations. But what is the mac and cheese for your people? What's the thing they're craving that they currently want? Because if you don't give that to them, they're not going to hear anything else. And this is where people get really confused when they're like, I think we're talking about the number one reason people don't buy. It's because people are selling just vegetables, and what they want to buy is mac and cheese, and they don't understand that you've got both. Because most of us have, we have both, and they're just completely missing your offer as a result. All right, let me know if that's making sense. If you have questions, if you want more examples, I am available for all of it. Okay, last thing here that I think is just a really easy place to check in with. Again, we're talking about the number one reason people aren't buying, and it's because we're not meeting them where they're at. I think another place that you can just check in with, you can make a really simple change today that'll make a shift, is getting clear at where people are at in their journey as it relates to your work or your offer. So it's funny, I picked these topics ahead of time. I swear this conversation has come up. I had calls all this morning, and last week, this was like the common conversation for almost everyone, was this piece here, is really getting clear on your dream clients, your ideal clients, the people you want to work with. Where are they at in their journey as it relates to your work? So when we're getting clear on all these problems and all these solutions, where are they at in that process? So when you're starting to, make your freebie or make your entry-level offer a free call or do a live stream, that you can really meet them at where they're at in their journey. What I find happens so often, and it's so easy to do, is we meet them where we're at in our journey. Same thing with the results and the problem piece, but now we're just talking about like those practical next steps they need to take. We meet them 4 steps ahead. If we meet them 4 steps ahead, they don't understand why they should listen to us. They don't understand why they should listen to you, why they should, sign up for your free download, why they should sign up for your free webinar, why they should take you up on that free call you have, because it's not meeting them where they're at in their journey. And so if you take like everything we've been talking about today, it's all about meeting them where they're at. If we think about that journey piece, really get clear on what is the obvious next step for them. What is the obvious next thing they need in the journey, like where they're at in their journey? Because that's always going to be the thing that helps people say yes to that next step forward in your relationship building process that allows you to sell. Versus, I'm so excited, I want to sell them or offer them this thing that's really 14 steps ahead, that's just gonna go over, not over your people's heads because they're not smart enough or they don't understand, but just because that's not what they're looking for. That's not the problem or solution they want help with. Let me know if you have questions on that piece. I think that piece there, that's just a really easy thing. You can just go through every part of your sales process and your marketing process, kind of taking those 2 pieces of, am I meeting my people where they're at in terms of that problem or that pain point they have, in terms of that solution, that thing they want, that mac and cheese? And am I packaging this, whether it's a paid or free offer, am I packaging this in a way that's giving them that next step in their journey, so that I can help move them forward to get those things they want, instead of am I trying to package this in a way that just is so far ahead of where they're at in their journey that they completely miss the chance to work with me. Or if you have a product that makes sense, it doesn't make any sense for them to buy the product. I'm trying to think of a really simple example that I might use here. Okay, this is a silly example. I really want to get we're going to move soon, and I want to get a Peloton. I don't know if you guys know what those are. It's like a stationary bike where you can do spin classes while you're on there. I haven't seen a lot of their advertising. I just know I want one of these, but I know the reason I want that. I can imagine if they did marketing that really spoke to professional athletes and really spoke to like how these courses were going to help you train for your next triathlon, and really spoke to how hard this was and how it's going to help you train like a professional bike rider to, I don't know, go out for 100 miles, like making stuff up here. That would be amazing. It would miss me completely. I love spinning. I'm competitive. I am really in shape, but that would be not where I'm at in my journey. That wouldn't speak to my problem. It wouldn't speak to the result I want, and it wouldn't meet me where I'm at, and it would completely miss me, even though it's something I want and that I will use and that I would spend money on, simply because the way it's being described and packaged and the way it's being presented to me doesn't meet me where I'm at on my journey, with my pain points and the problems I want to solve, and with the solutions I want. The same company, the Peloton company, can literally do the same thing and say, hey, are you someone who loves spinning and loves being in shape? Do you find you're working at home and you want to have it's Corona and you don't want to go to a spin class that doesn't feel safe, and you still want to have a way to interact with other people and get your sweat on so you can stay in shape? You should buy this bike. Same literal product, but it would meet me where I'm at. It would speak to my problem, which is I don't want to go to a spin class because I live in New York City, and I don't even think they're open yet. We're still kind of on lockdown. It doesn't feel safe. It meets me where I'm at in my journey. I want to get in shape. I want to be around other people, but I'm not trying to compete for the next triathlete. That would actually scare me out of joining. And it speaks to the results I want, the benefits I want, being able to do it at home, having it be easy, being with other people, staying in shape. Same product, but suddenly it's meeting their ideal client where they're at on all the different avenues, and I want to buy. And again, otherwise, goes over my head, and I would completely just not even think about buying the same exact product. Let's see. Stephanie says, yes, they look amazing. Their marketing is so good. I honestly haven't looked at too much of their marketing, Stephanie, but I'm obsessed with spinning, and I've seen one or two ads, and I've used one before, and they're amazing. So as soon as we move, that is on my very short bucket list of things that will be happening. But I think it's a great example just to see how you can take a product like that we know about, and see how if you're not meeting your people where they're at, you can completely miss selling someone who wants to buy what you have because they don't understand what you're selling. So again, if they're selling and not meeting me where I'm at, even though I want what they're selling, I wouldn't understand what they're selling and I wouldn't want to buy it. I'm trying to think of another easy example like that, because I think sometimes it's easier to hear this outside of our own businesses, our own work. Let me think of what another. I like to look around. So laptop. Let's just use a laptop as an example. I have a Mac laptop. Many of you have laptops. I don't even know what their advertising is necessarily like, but I think that's just such a great example of, we all know what a laptop is, and based on how it's being sold is going to depend on if people understand why they should buy it. If I sell a laptop and I speak to, let's say it's for all of us as entrepreneurs. All of us as entrepreneurs, if we want to buy a laptop, what are some of the problems we have and pain points we have? Some of the problems we literally have is we need to make sure the battery life is good. We need to make sure it's light. We need to make sure, if you're me, that it's really, the tech isn't confusing. Where am I at in my journey? I'm working from home. I'm working with clients all day long. I want to make sure that this is something that's going to house everything I need and that's going to have lots of storage. And then what are the results I want? I want to make sure I don't have to like think about anything, that this is going to work for me, that it's lightweight, that it just helps me run my business and make more money in my business. I'm like making things up here. It would be really easy for a computer company to miss all of that and to sell the same thing, a computer, but just think that my problem is that I really want something that has lots of tech function, that my problem is that I want a really big screen, and that I need something that is going to allow me to like do lots of editing. I'm making this up. And I'm sure there's people who want that. If a computer company sold me a really big screen, lots of editing capability, it's really tech heavy, and I could just edit videos all day long on it, that's amazing. I'm not gonna buy you because that's not what I'm looking for at all. You haven't met me where I'm at, even if you're selling the same exact product. Such a silly example, but I think you all understand what I'm saying. So it's the same thing for all of you. What I would invite you to do, if you feel like I'm showing up, I'm doing all the things, my mindset is great, I believe in my work, I'm showing up and sharing my content, I'm selling, and people aren't buying at the rate I know they should, take a look at, do people understand what you're selling? Because again, that's the number one reason people aren't buying, is they just don't understand what you're selling. And are you meeting them where they're at? And if you're not, really easy, like no shame on you. That's everyone ever. It's really hard to see the forest for the trees in our own business. Just go back over these 3 areas, and this will help you get clear on how you can meet your people where they're at more so that you can sell more. 1, get clear on what are the problems they currently have that they're aware of, the problems they know they have, the problems they're bitching to their best friend about, not the problems you know they have that they're not aware of yet, the problems they have. 2, what are the benefits? What are the things they want? Why do they want to solve that problem? What are they dreaming about at night? What are they telling their best friend? I just wish I could have this. The more you can think about it in the words they're using, the better. And then 3, where are they at in that journey? Where are they at, in their process? What's the obvious next step for them? And how can you help them understand that your product is that obvious next step versus, 5 steps ahead? Crystal says, how do you make offers? Tanika says, hi. Mary's heart, thank you. And Crystal says, how do you make offers for 2 groups at such different ends of the spectrums? Folks making their first sale versus 6-figure entrepreneurs. I'm so impressed that you work with both. Oh, thank you so much. I think that's a great question. And I think the beautiful thing with the work I do is, if we think about business and business concepts, it really doesn't change. I mean, certain things change. You might be hiring team as you get further along in business, but the work I do, I help people with clarity, mindset, strategy, and action, and I help them build, grow, and scale businesses they love. It really is applicable to, whether you're just starting or you're further ahead as a coach. The work I'm doing is applicable to everyone. I'm just meeting them at different places in their journey, but the problems people have aren't that different, and the solutions, we're talking about what we're talking about here, the benefits they want aren't that different. So I think in terms of kind of this conversation and marketing and making offers, I'm just really being clear to speak specifically to more of the internal problems I know they have and the things I know they want. And I find it's very universal. Or if I'm, I guess the other thing that's helpful to hear here is if I'm speaking to maybe some of the things because I think as business owners, if you're just starting out, you want to grow into the 6-figure business owner, I imagine, or above. So when I'm speaking to that group of people, those things still apply to the new business owner, because those are all things that they're stepping into. I don't know if that makes sense. And if I'm speaking to some of the problems that, say, a new business owner has, those are really the same problems a business owner has it further along, just on a different scope. They're just dealing with it in a different way. So hopefully that makes sense, and I answered that clearly. And I guess the other way is literally what I'm doing here. And I tell people, like, I help people at both sides of the spectrum. And I the other thing that pops up here that feels important to share is I make lots of offers all the time, and I'm sharing content all the time. So when I'm making an offer, or when I'm speaking to someone in my content or my copy, I'm speaking to something specifically, and I'm not worried about, let's say I'm speaking to a problem that is specific to a new business owner. I'm not worried that I'm missing out on someone else, because I just want to talk to that person, help them solve their problem. Let's say I'm talking to someone who's further along in their business who, is hiring on team members and scaling. I want to speak specifically to that, and I'm not worried about, someone else not understanding. It's sort of just like being at a party and having more people in the room. I just want to talk to whatever person I'm talking to, but I know that I can talk to both people at the same, like I'm able to converse with both people. I just want to talk to one at a time. All right, I hope that party analogy makes sense. Does anyone else have any other questions for me about what we're talking about today, or else, big picture, other business questions? I'm happy to answer them before I hop off. If not, I think we just recapped everything here, but just as a reminder, I'll just see if we have a comment here. Oh, yep, we do have another comment. Tanika said, I had the same conversation with myself yesterday about my offer not being clear. Please tell me that I can explain the benefits in a live video without coming off as salesy. Pricing should be discussed in our one-on-one meetings. Please tell me that I can explain the benefits in a live video without coming off salesy. So yes, first of all, I love that you were having that conversation, and I think it's so important to be clear. I think this comes into a little bit of the mindset stuff, and what I'll offer is be clear, and I would really remove that worry about being salesy. I think we think if it seems like I'm selling something, suddenly salesy means I'm slimy and icky and I'm yucky and gross and pushing things on people. Let me know, Tanika, if that's kind of like what comes up for you. And what I'd offer is, what if being salesy means you're actually being really clear and being of service and offering things to people that might help them, and they just get to decide if they want to take you up on what you're selling or not. And I think it's just a way to reframe, because what happens otherwise is we try to figure out, how can I get really clear and talk to my people, but how can I get really clear in a way where I don't seem salesy so no one knows I'm actually selling. And here's the thing, if no one knows you're actually selling, then no one knows you're selling, and then no one knows no one knows to buy. We want people to know we're selling. We want to be really clear about it. And I think the more we can remove like the shame and the yuck and the ick around selling, and just start to see as like, selling is a beautiful thing. I love selling. I think sales conversations are one of the most beautiful things and transformative things. I also love the work I do, and I know it's freaking amazing, so I don't feel bad selling it. But I think the more we can think about it that way, then salesy can just be a great thing, instead of, how do I not seem salesy? Tanika says, totally yes, LOL, got it. Thanks for playing with me, and thanks for sharing that, because I think it's maybe we need to do another live stream on just that whole topic, because I think it's such an important one. And I think what's beautiful there is you are ready, you got it, you know how to be clear, so go ahead and be clear and give yourself permission to sell. What was the other thing here? Pricing should be discussed in our one-on-one meetings. I'm a big fan of that. I have pricing on my website. I'm very transparent in my pricing, but I think so often, this is kind of a side conversation here, but since we're chatting about it, I think so often with things like that, when we're on live streams, we really want to speak to everything we're talking about here. How can you help someone solve their problem? Where are they at in their journey? What's that solution or benefit? And what's that next step with you? And then you can discuss the details more in depth in a conversation. Sometimes I think it's so easy to like oversell all of that, and it's a lot of information for people to take in, instead of just sell that next step in the journey, and then you can speak to the pricing with you. Courtney says, just had a consult call and she gave me good feedback that she wasn't entirely clear on my packages. It's a great opportunity to get more clear and speak to what they need. Courtney, thank you so much for sharing that. I think so wonderful you got that feedback, and so important, so beautiful to see. It's a great opportunity, exactly that, to get clear on what do they need, what is the problem. For example, this person on the consult call, what's the problem she has, and how does this package solve that problem, and how can you make sure that it's really clear and addressing that specifically. So I love that because it's literally speaking to what we're talking about here, which is, I think sometimes we're really excited about the problems we know we can solve and the things we can give, and we miss communicating what our people are telling us they need. So it's like, what's the mac and cheese in the offer? And then you can throw the vegetables in. Courtney, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that so much. Crystal says, this was great, Kim. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Anyone else have any other questions, reflections before we hop off? Let's just see if I had anything else I wanted to share here. The other thing I will share, we have a free training, and throw in any questions if you have while I'm sharing this. We have a free training next week, all on words that sell. So we're going to take this concept here today, and we're going to talk more about how to talk to your people using words, copy, and content to help you sell more. I think that messaging and that copy is so important in business, and I think it feels like really confusing, and we're going to break down some just really simple ways to take those words in your copy so that it converts more. Completely free training. We do one every month. I'll make sure I drop a link, but be sure to sign up for that because it will be live in the group, but I always send a playbook, and I'm going to send a really fun bonus this month instead of a worksheet for you all that I think will be just really powerful for everyone. So I'll make sure I drop a link for that, and we will have that next week. Let's see. Alina says, would you advise sticking to one specific solution to a product or experiment by offering a few solutions to the same product, giving audience an option to see if they refer to any of them? So I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly, but you mean if I'm selling a water bottle, a product, would I stick to one solution, one specific solution, or a bunch of different solutions? If I'm understanding correctly, what I would say is it's fine to have more than one solution. I think people buy for more than one, emotional reason. For example, I might want to save time and make money, or make money and save time. Those could be two different solutions that are very universal. Not necessarily anything to do with my water bottle, but in terms of solutions. So you can absolutely speak to more than one. What I would invite you to think about is can you get really specific to what those solutions for your people are? So you're not just speaking to a bunch of random solutions, but really getting clear on what are the solutions your people want, not the ones you want for them, that they want from that product. Of course, make sure it's in integrity always. I feel like that goes without saying, y'all. Don't sell solutions that you can't deliver on, but really getting clear and specific about the solution that your people actually want from the product versus just throwing in a bunch to experiment with, because that kind of goes back to people getting confused, because that's more about what you're excited about than what they want. Let me know if that answered the question, if that makes sense, Alina. Tanika says, thank you so much too, Kim. Alina says, absolutely love what you're sharing. Thank you. Alina says, yes, that's right. Awesome. Beautiful. All right. I believe that's all the questions then. She says, thanks so much. That makes sense. Awesome. I love you all. Thank you for hanging with me. If anyone watching on the replay has questions, feel free to pop them below. I'm always happy to answer them. I want to make sure I'm a resource to you all. Thank you for being here. I will see you next week for the free training. Be sure to sign up. I think we will have a lot of fun. Copy is one of my favorite things, aside from mindset and something I love helping my clients with. So I think we'll have a lot of fun with it. Courtney says, thanks, Kim. Thank you. I love you, Courtney. All right. Bye, y'all. Have a beautiful night and see you next week.